Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. I'm joined now by Grover Norquist, the founder and president of Americans for Tax Reform. Grover, great to have you with us.
Hey, great to be here.
Well, you just released a new book along with John Lott titled Debacle, Obama's War on Jobs, Growth, and What We Can Do to Regain Our Future. One of the things you point out is that by 2020, based on Obama's own budget, and these are CBO projections, that the American family of four will be responsible for $126,000 of that deficit. So what can we do to change that?
Well, of course, we had a problem with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac malinvesting. Then Obama, Reid, and Pelosi come in, and they made everything worse. And so we have a very, very weak recovery going on now. This is a much weaker recovery than we've had in the past. Third year of Reagan's presidency created 4 million jobs. We created like 1 million jobs last year. So we have a weak recovery because Obama did all the wrong things in reaction to the recession. And now what we need to do is the opposite. Spend less, lower taxes, have deregulation, fix Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The banking regulation bill did everything except fixing the people who caused the problems for the banking crisis. So we have a huge challenge. Obama's been taking us in the wrong direction for 3 years now. We need to do a U-turn. Spend less, reduce taxes, less regulation.
I read a report in The Hill this week that lawmakers are working behind the scenes right now to revise that grand bargain program to combat the deficit, something that would look like the Simpson-Bowles plan, both reducing spending but also increasing taxes. Do you think that will have any success?
No, because of course the whole goal of Simpson-Bowles was to raise taxes significantly to pay for the bigger government of Obama. The reason why Obama liked it was in the middle of it was a $2 or $3 trillion tax increase over the next decade, $2 or $3 trillion in higher taxes. There were, in theory, some spending cuts. Obama never put any of those into his budget. He's never even endorsed any of them. So they say Simpson-Bowles, ooh, spending cuts and tax increases. When the Democrats hear that, all they hear is the tax increases. And unfortunately, all you'd get out of the Simpson-Bowles being put on the table is the tax increase, no spending cuts.
Well, I want to ask you about this presidential race. And of course, it's been somewhat odd and different than ones we've seen in the past. Why do you think that is?
Well, there are a couple of things. In the old days, Taft, Eisenhower, Goldwater, Rockefeller, there were these ideological divides. You had two different wings of the modern Republican Party. They wanted to go in two different directions. Today, of the 10 people who are running for the nomination for president, they're all Reagan Republicans. There's some minor differences, but they're basically all Reagan Republicans. Nobody's going, oh, we should be like Richard Nixon and bigger spenders. Oh, we should, there's no Rockefeller wing of the party. So when Republicans are looking, they can be excused for lusting after Rick Perry, and then moments later Herman Cain, and then moments later Gingrich, and then moments later Santorum. They go from one to the other in this sort of serial monogamy because they're all pretty much the same. I mean, if you walk into a room and all the women are beautiful, which one do you like? Well, I don't know. They're all beautiful. Which of these Republican candidates do you like? Well, they're all okay. And so people pick odd reasons why to be for one and not like the other. It is a healthy thing that they're all Reagan Republicans, and we can choose.
The Tea Party vote, which was very important in 2010 and factored to be very important in 2012 as well, was split in Ohio between Santorum and Romney. Why do we see that? Tea Party is
the sixth wave of immigration into the modern Republican Party. You had the Goldwater people, the religious right guys from the '78, Pat Robertson's people in '88, Ron Paul's people 4 years ago, Tea Party people 2 years ago. This is healthy, new people come into the party. But new people come in because they hadn't been politically active before. So Tea Party people are people who weren't politically active before, but were terrified by Obama's overspending. So they come in and wanting to fix the spending issue. They can go for any of these other candidates for secondary reasons as well. They're here because they want to fight Obama's spending.
We're approaching a very dangerous time, economically speaking, fiscally speaking, for our government coming up during this period after the election. There's going to have to be a lot done. The Bush tax cuts are ending. There's a lot going on there. What do you see happening in that 6-7 week session of Congress?
It all depends on who comes in. Right now, it looks as though the Republicans will hold the House. It looks as though they'll win the Senate. Half of the Democrats running for Senate are vulnerable. Very few of the Republicans running for Senate are vulnerable. Should be a Republican House and Senate. If there's a Republican president, then you can immediately move to do a budget and extend all of those tax cuts and begin to cut spending. If Obama's still the president, we have a train wreck, and Obama likes train wrecks because he takes advantage of that kind of crisis to try and push for bigger government.
Wouldn't you see, though, that Congress, if Republicans do control both houses of Congress, that they would have the power and they can really kind of bring the president to his knees to get their initiatives done?
Well, you have more power. Certainly, it's important to have the House and Senate, even with a Democratic president. But it's difficult to get legislation passed. You can not give the president money. That's not a bad first step. But you can't cut taxes without the president's signature.
Okay. Well, Romney's tax plan calls for tax rate cuts across the board, bringing it down to about 20%. Santorum calls for slashing the corporate tax rate in half and simplifying the tax code into just 2 rates. What do you think about these candidates' plans?
They're all moving in the same direction of reducing rates and broadening the base and not being a tax increase. I think Rick Perry had the best, Governor of Texas Rick Perry had the best tax plan of the year, and Newt Gingrich has one that was similar. They've all basically come out and said, let's dramatically reduce rates, let's simplify the code, looking at what Reagan did in 1986. So sure, do they all have different plans? Yes. Are they all pretty close to each other in terms of the direction we're heading? Yes.
When you strip away all the loopholes, we're talking about effective tax rate, where does it sit now as opposed to when you first started your crusade 20 years ago?
Well, the tax burden, the top tax rate is 35%, half of what it is when Reagan came into the presidency. So we made some progress on reducing marginal tax rates. But Reagan got it down to 28, and now it's drifted back up again. So we need to get back to the Reagan levels and then back on track to continue to reduce rates. The total tax burden and the total spending has shot up significantly, unfortunately, over the past years.
And we have seen government expand throughout the last 20 years. Is cutting taxes really the only way ahead of any actual spending cuts? Is that really going to shrink the size of government?
Step one is never raise taxes. That's why the Taxpayer Protection Pledge that Americans for Tax Reform shares with all candidates and incumbents in House, Senate, state legislature. If you say taxes are off the table, we're never raising taxes, then and only then do you get to a conversation of reforming government spending. Politicians like to raise taxes instead of reforming government. They want to raise taxes instead of reducing spending. So first you say no new taxes, everybody takes the pledge, and you mean it. That's what we did to Obama last year. 2011, he kept saying, how about a tax increase? Republicans said no. No tax increase. We cut $2.5 trillion out of his budget promises in the future. That was progress. But now we need to do more reforms, like some of our governors are doing around the country. Scott Walker in Wisconsin, Rick Scott in Florida, Perry in Texas, New Jersey, Chris Christie. Those are all governors who said no tax increases, yes spending cuts. But if you don't say no to tax increases, you never get to the second part of that project. Our friend George W. Bush got the no tax increase part. He forgot the second part of the dance sheet, which is stop spending so much.
All right, Grover Norquist, the book is titled Debacle, Obama's War on Jobs and Growth, and What Can Be Done to Regain Our Future, that you co-wrote with John Lott.
Absolutely.
Great to have you with us again, Grover.
Thank you.